Hello, class. My name is Valerie McIntyre, and I'm a librarian from the public library. I'm here today because your teacher and I have created a research project for you. Woo! Before you guys freak out, this is not a traditional research project. You're not going to have to write a 12-page paper by tomorrow. This is a really fun project that we're hoping is going to help you learn about some cool applications and tools that will benefit you in your future career, like in other classes, in college, in your work life. But it is also just a really fun project that we had a lot of fun creating for you. For this first week of instruction, the first part of this project, I'm going to be your teacher. And I'm going to be teaching you how to use Google applications to conduct research and to compile your research. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about Google Scholar, Google Documents, and Google Slides. And the thing about Google applications is that they're all very integrated together. So there is probably going to be some aspects of other Google applications that I'm going to go over briefly, like Google Drive or Gmail, but the focus is on those three original apps: Google Scholar, Google Docs, and Google Slides. And then your teacher will take over next week. She'll be talking about creative writing, styling, and that kind of thing. So before I get into the full description of what this assignment is, I kind of just want to gauge the class and figure out where you guys are. Have you guys used Google applications before? Have you specifically used Google Scholar, Google Documents, or Google Slides? Just raise your hand if you've used any of those applications before. Okay, so there's a couple of you. A couple of you have used these applications then. Then that's great. You guys can help me out. Hopefully I'll be able to pick out some features and tools in the applications that you haven't heard about or used before. But if not, you guys are going to be great resources for your teammates, because that's the other aspect of this project. It is a teamwork project. So now that I've figured out that, now we've determined the baseline and that some of you guys know about Google applications, I am going to describe to you what this assignment is. So this assignment is going to lead up to you guys creating a presentation. And this presentation will be the resource that you use for next week during that part of the project. Now, this presentation, what it is I'm going to group you guys up into groups of 4, and I'm going to give you 5 minutes to brainstorm with your group members what decades you're interested in learning more about. And you're going to choose your top 3, because I'm going to really push you guys to not copy one another. I don't want there to be multiples of one decade. I want each group to have their own particular decade that they can research specifically. So whatever decade you choose, it can be 20th century, it could be 19th century, it could be 21st century, it could be any century you want. But you have to be able to conduct adequate research, and in my mind, that's at least 10 resources about that decade. And it just keep in mind that whatever decade you choose, the further back you go, it might be harder and harder to find credible, reliable sources about that decade. So you're probably likely going to have more information if you decide to stick in the 20th century, so the 1900s and above. But it's up to you guys to decide and brainstorm that. So once you guys have picked a decade, we're going to get together. You guys are going to work on your Chromebooks, and you're going to begin researching that decade. You're going to find out what the lifestyle was like that back then, the fashion, the politics, who the important people were. You're going to find out as much as you possibly can about that decade. And how you're going to do that is you're going to use Google Scholar. And Google Scholar is going to aggregate sources. It's going to compile all these sources that are credible, reliable, peer-reviewed sources. And you're going to take the information from those sources and you're going to put that information in a Google document. And You're going to use that Google document to collaborate with your teammates and to draft up a presentation, which you're going to start creating on Google Slides. So it's a very step-by-step process. And each day we're going to be learning a new application, and I'm going to give you time in class to work on it with your teammates. You shouldn't have to do any homework. I'm going to give you enough time in class for you guys to conduct your research, to be talking with each other, to be doing stuff online. But if you do feel like you guys need more time, the applications allow you to speak to each other outside of class. And so that is really critical to the success of this project. You guys need to be communicating with one another. Now, after that is done and you've created your presentation about your decade, you're going to present that as a group to the class. And the reason why we're doing this is because I want to give you guys some context. How are the decades changing? How are people changing throughout the decades? What parts of fashion, what parts of entertainment are changing and adapting and evolving? And then what's going to happen is next week, you and your classmates in your group are going to choose a specific year within that decade. And you're going to write a historical fiction, a story that is set in that year. And you're going to take the stuff that you learned and all the resources that you organized in a presentation, and you're going to put those details into your story to make it more real and more true to what the decade was like before.